Hey there to all you rebellious souls out there. It is great to have you here. I'm truly excited to inspire you again today, and I hope that this podcast episode will ignite a new fire within you. So enjoy, and you know what? Feel free to reach out if I can support you in any way. Have a good one. Hey there, lovely. It is so great to have you here again. And today I would like to speak specifically to those who are or are wanting to be in romantic relationships. Whether you're dating someone or whether you're in a long term commitment or whether you are really longing to be with someone, stay, because I would like to share with you my thoughts on how to keep that spark alive or how to reignite it. I also want to, before I start this, I would like to give credit where credit is due. I have learned a lot in the past decades about relationships, and a big part of what I've learned is my own experience as well. But I've been training with Esther Perel, and I remember when I first heard her TED Talk many years ago, I was so deeply inspired. So she has been one of my teachers, alongside with many tantric teachers and people that I've been working with. So, but I specifically want to mention her because her teachings have really inspired me over the past decade when it comes to relationships. So, the fire, how do you keep that fire alive? How do you, maintain a level of desire in a relationship that also feels so close? And that is exactly why I have titled this podcast, I Want You Close, Please Get Away. Because there is a paradox here. There is what they call a polarity in the spiritual world. There's a lot of talk about creating polarity in the relationship. And I'm not a big fan, to be honest. I'm not a big fan of the polarity paradigm, because the way that it is presented to me feels like a spiritual or new way of something old. It is an old story, an old narrative packaged in something that sounds very popular. And I just don't subscribe by it fully. Okay? So when I'm talking about contradictive forces here, I'm not just talking about the polarity in masculine feminine, for example, because that's too much of a binary for me. However, the notion that we want contradictive experiences is universal, definitely. And when you actually look at what is intended, for example, in Tantra, when they speak about masculine and feminine energies, and not just in Tantra, it's a universal principle, then it is really about the energies, and it has nothing to do with gender. So now that we've clarified that, let's look at these opposite forces of closeness versus distance. One of the things that we so deeply long for as human beings is the safety, is the security. And that is all about closeness. We also so deeply seek love and connection. These are two very basic human needs. When we look at the hierarchy of needs by Maslow, we already see that. Now, I'm also not a fan of hierarchy, so I personally prefer the 6 human needs presented by Tony Robbins, which is basically a modern version with slight adaptations of this pyramid. But what it shows and what we can take away from that is that we have those basic needs. We want love and connection, and we want security. Yet there are also 2 other needs that we have as human beings, and those are around adventure, as well as the feeling of being an individual, so the sovereignty. And sometimes these needs can contradict themselves. And this is where it becomes interesting, and this is also where sometimes it can hurt, because you might really crave that safety and the belonging and the connection and the oneness, and feeling that in the relationship that you're in, or in the relationship that you actually really want, that you are one, that there's an us. And that's beautiful. And it's really important to have that level of intimacy. And yet, if this is all that you're focusing on, if this is the main tendency, the main the main energy to create the main space that you're in, then a part of you is going to feel like it's not nourished, that it's not seen. And that is the part of you that also wants to feel its individuality, the part of you that wants adventure, the part of you that wants novelty, the part of you that wants to explore and to go out into the world. I would say that it is your inner adventurer, for example. And when you look at the entities that are involved in a relationship, there are really three entities. There is a you as an individual. There is a them as your partner. And it could also be multiple partners, obviously, but I'm just going to stick to you and them just as a couple. And however you apply that in your relationship model is up to you then. And then there's, of course, the relationship. That is also an entity there. The closeness, the need for closeness, the need for belonging, wants that community. It wants that entity of the us to be nurtured. And it's extremely important. However, the part of you that wants adventure and that wants to be recognized as the individual, and the part that wants to go out into the world, that includes two entities. So that's you with your needs to go out, and that is them with their needs to go out. Sometimes this can be a little bit scary, because when you're close, when you're in the relationship, and when you're at home together, or when you see each other a lot, you might feel that you have a little bit of a sense of control. You know where they're at, you know what they're doing, it's very easy to share. You want to be part of every little thing in their life. You want to be part of every minute. You want to know it all, because, oh my God, it's like, yeah, it's a great and satisfying feeling to share. And yet it also kills the mystery. One of the things that makes a new relationship, when there's a new relationship energy, as they say, what makes it so amazing is that you don't know everything of your new partner. You don't know everything about the person that you're dating. There is a mystery there. And that mystery creates desire. It's because, you don't know. It might be another surprise. That level of surprise can be so great. So if you really want to rekindle desire, as Esther Perel talks about, rekindling desire, if that's something that is important to you, I would always say, see how you can integrate the space of distance. So you don't just enter the space of the us, but there's also a you space and a them space. And you honor that space, and you really look at how you want to fill that space up, literally, in terms of time. What are you going to do with that time that you have reserved for yourself? Are you going to, go to the spa by yourself? Or are you going to visit museums, or take a walk in nature? Or are you going to hang out with friends? What is it that you're going to do for you? Because that time that you can be apart that way, then you have something new to share with your partner. And if they're going to go out and they're on a business trip, for example, or they're going out dancing with their friends, or whatever it is that they're doing, they have a renewed sense of self, and a renewed sense, they're recharging in the way that really serves them, and they bring that charged energy with them to you, and that it can be very exciting. Because really what it is about here is including a sense of novelty and surprise in the relationship, which means that you don't get to be part of each other's space the whole time. And when you have, when there is a level of anxious attachment in your system, that might sound scary. You know, it might be like, oof, I really need the closeness to feel safe. And I get it. But the challenge is here to understand that the close that them finding their own space is not a threat to your safety. And I mean, the system reacts the way it reacts. And if you can recognize and bring that in, like, hey, I'm noticing that you taking your time for yourself and doing more for yourself is activating my nervous system. I'm feeling a little bit scared here. And instead of judging that, have compassion for it and express what you need in that moment. Instead of, blaming them for leaving you alone or fearing that they're going to abandon you. That might not be what's happening at all. They're just taking, doing something fun for themselves. And that's something that your brain might know, but your system can react to it. And what I would recommend that you do is always have compassion for that, be kind to yourself, but and express what you need. Express this so that they understand. And talk about it. Just really talk about this. Now, on the other hand, you might have a little bit more of an avoidant attachment style that, you might feel smothered when someone wants to be close too much and you actually need time off to get away and to feel yourself again. Also, this is nothing to judge, and this is nothing to be ashamed of. It's just your nervous system reacting. So in the closeness that I at least that's my personal opinion. I feel that in whatever insecure attachment we may have, and I personally have a tendency to be avoidant, but underneath that, in most of us, underneath the anxiousness or the avoidance, there really is a need to be loved and to feel connected and a need to feel safe. And whether it's through clinging or whether it's through going away, we are just basically fearing that the connection that is there may not last. And so we act out. Whatever it is that is happening in you, whether you fear the closeness or you fear the distance, talk about this. Express what this is bringing up for you and what you need. So if you need a timeout every now and then, okay, so make sure that you build that in for yourself, but also make sure that there's time for the us space, and see how you can include that sense of adventure that you so long for, include that in the relationship. And here I believe that there's gold, because often it is believed that this paradox, these contradictive forces of closeness and distance. So the closeness is the intimacy, whereas in the distance and the novelty and the adventure, there's desire. Intimacy and desire are not necessarily the same at all. In these contradictive forces, let me see if I can really phrase it right. So I'm noticing that I'm thinking about the words at the same time. It is very easy to believe that you literally need physical distance to create that novelty. And it's part of it, yeah? So I would always say do things, make sure that you really have your own life. Doesn't mean that you always have to go to your friends together. See how you can really have an individual path instead of, becoming that symbiotic, intertwined us only. And literally have some time apart. But I believe that it's even more interesting when you integrate these different spaces, even when you share a home, for example, even when you would have a weekend, when you're together throughout the week and also in weekends. How can you integrate the principles of closeness versus distance in the same confinement of your own home, for example, and it's not that you're confined, we're not in lockdown anymore, but how can you still integrate that? How can you include the spirit of adventure, of novelty in your relationship? And this is something that I would invite you to ponder on how you could do that. I believe that it really starts with how you look at the other person yourself. Like, can you keep seeing the individual? Can you keep seeing them at a little distance, even though, they are so close and they're so close to your heart and you feel so connected? Can you still see them as the individual that they are, the way that you noticed them and really saw them in the beginning of your relationship? Can you keep that alive? And if you're dating or if you're looking for a relationship, you hope to find that partner, I would urge you to keep seeing them as the individual that they are, instead of only focusing on the entity of us, as if there's only the symbiotic situation, the merging of you two souls. There's also that individual part, because that keeps that interest in and that curiosity in the other person. And that is an attitude in yourself. You can keep looking at their amazement, keep looking at their how they move and operate in the world, and look at that with wonder, with amazement, with curiosity, and keep appreciating that. That is such an important step. And through that, you might, see how you can integrate different practices in your life, for example. And you could keep asking, hey, what inspired you today? Because, that way you can feel their energy around excitement, and you can be curious about, what moves them and how they've been inspired today. It also creates, it also helps you to see their individuality instead of just assuming what their day was like. Really stay curious about the other person, so that you can keep that energy of the space of curiosity, the space of exploration. And there are many ways to keep that, to integrate that in the relationship, from role play to introducing new ways, for example, in the bedroom, for integrating certain practices. There are many tools that you can actually use. But what it basically comes down to, in essence, is the willingness and ability to step into the space of exploration, and maintaining your own space of individuality, where you can see them in their full power and in their full individuality. That is, how you basically create a level of distance, a healthy level of distance, that still inspires a lot of closeness, because that makes you want them again. That sparks the desire, so that the moment that you can merge feels like so amazing and special again. You keep all these spaces, the us space, the you space, the them space. You keep that all alive. Now, I hope that this inspires you and that you have some ideas, and understand that this really is about a choice and an ability and willingness to go there. How you can implement that, the how is very specific and very different for everyone. I would be very willing to support you in that, to give you ideas. You can contact me anytime. And for now, I'm going to wish you a magical day. Thank you again for listening to this podcast. I hope that you will take all the inspiration with you in the rest of your day. If there's anything I can support you with, please check the website beabrandrebel.com or michellecoops.com, or reach out to me on Instagram @michellecoops. And remember, stay rebelicious.